It's not just e-bikes that have got problems. Anthony Albanese continues to have massive problems, with new polling shows that Australians regard him as weak. And get this, someone's described him as a beta male, which is very insulting. The focus groups had some hilarious comments. One person said, and I quote, when asked their impressions of the Prime Minister, he hasn't really addressed cost of living, and I get there's global factors at play, but I don't think he's done much concrete action on it. And then someone else said, and I quote, he's not a leader, he's a follower, he's a beta male. I reckon the Chinese were ahead of the game when some weeks ago they famously described Anthony Albanese as handsome boy. And I think Anthony Albanese at first thought, they've noticed. But it was, of course,
no one else had.
An insult. They were implying that he can just be patted on the head and sort of strung along. And the problem now, of course, is that Australians are thinking the exact same thing as Beijing.
I mean, imagine calling Anthony Albanese a handsome boy. I'd think he leaves most women drier than the Andes, to be perfectly honest. But the thing here, in this Redbridge polling that was done, it came up consistently. Cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. Like, it is the only issue that exists at the moment, and it's been the only issue that's existed for about 6 months. You had that great distraction of The Voice in there. Now it is just cost of living, and the government can't get any cut through on it because they simply refuse to do anything about it. And I know you can't just fix cost of living overnight, but it would be so simple with that big old surplus that they keep crowing about to just do something. Like, as Paul keeps saying, cut the petrol excise for 6 months.
Yeah.
Practical things that can be done to help people out. And the government at every turn refuses to do it, while also saying cost of living is our #1 priority. They've done literally nothing to demonstrate that they have any interest in cost of living whatsoever.
So is there any wonder that the polls are reflecting that? People are like, well, we're not buying it. You're clearly lying through your teeth. It's a universal truth and a psychological truth that people want to be led. They like to be led, but not by a weak leader, not by some limp-wristed beta male. I love that that person commented that.
Hey, how do they know he's male? They're just assuming it, aren't they?
Because Albanese rolls with that, so we have to roll with it too. But in many ways, I see this as a gift to the Liberal Party, right? Because he's so this much on the nose halfway through his term, let's say approximately halfway through his term. And of course, the Labor Party has made it near impossible for themselves to switch leaders post the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd humiliation era. So we know he's taking them to the next election come what may. So unless he can polish up in 18 months, stop doing this routine of saying, it's my #1 priority, which incidentally I'm doing absolutely nothing about, because the more the months pass, the less and less credible that will be, the less people will be swallowing it. So I think this is actually great news for the Libs waiting for the 2025 election.
For me, the writing was on the wall. When the referendum failed, and you remember that press conference and Albanese stood there and he said, well, I did what I said I would do. I brought it to the Australian people and that was my job. It was almost this kind of blasé sort of que sera, sera attitude. And then he failed to give leadership for the country moving forward.